All right, welcome everybody to today's customer success webinar. I'm here with two of our gurus, Benjamin Henry and Steve Moore, and we are going to talk about building an unstructured data cost savings model for your business. This has been a topic that, Ben, you probably talked the most to customers about and how to do this, and we really wanted to share some tips as well as show some things in the product that can help you build that business case. So a couple of things just for housekeeping. This is our customer success webinar series. You can go to our website, komprise.com/techcrunch, and you can see a lot of these recordings. There's some tips to how to work within the system in BrightTalk to get maximum viewing benefit. But we try to stick to 30 minutes, but we reserve the right to go a little longer based on your questions. So you can use the chat panels, ask us some questions if you're watching live today. I know a lot of you watch our recordings. But let's go. So why are we here? As I said, we kind of, Ben, I'm going to tee you up, and you're going to share some stories today. As you're a main presenter, but we want to give you all some suggestions, some strategies, and talk about really kind of collaborate on how to build a better business case and show the impact or potential impact of what you're doing with Komprise. We want to review some strategies and then really think about how to quantify that, the sort of cold data savings, the obsolete. We're going to talk about a few new reports we have in the product that can really, amplify and visualize the benefits. And then, we're going to dive into a demo. Anything you want to say, Ben, kind of before we jump in?
So let's get started.
All right, let's go. So, maybe this goes without saying, but I want to give a quick plug. We just recently produced our 4th annual Unstructured Data Management Report, and this is based on surveying organizations of 1,000 employees or above. So trying to focus on really data-heavy companies and organizations. And in our latest survey, cost optimization, probably not a surprise to you all, is the #1 priority for the next 12 months. Even more important than preparing for AI and some of the things that are getting so much of the hype out there in the market. So as your data volumes continue to grow, we know your budgets typically do not. So how are you going to find room to support these new AI and other innovations that you're trying to move towards in terms of overall modernization? And that's why we think it's so important now to build this business case and to have some ideas and strategies to showcase the benefits and potential benefits of both in terms of cost optimization, but also in terms of delivering value to the business and unlocking that value in your unstructured data. So that's what we're going to talk about today. You can go and download the report, komprise.com/report, and you can read some of those findings. I'd love to get your feedback. So let's talk about building a business case. We recently worked with one of our customers, and we kind of put together a 2-page flyer for that organization, for that customer, to get the departments involved. And Benjamin, you have a unique history in doing this. So let's talk about how you, in your previous organization, experienced the impact of kind of building the business case, but also kind of continuously evangelizing the results.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Darren. So in my previous role, I was actually a customer of Komprise prior to joining. I'd worked with Komprise for several years, but before I got introduced to Komprise, a challenge was set out at the highest level within our organization. At the time, our CIO had said we need to find and save 35% of our global data footprint, and it applied to everyone in the company. And it was one of those moments. I remember when he said it. It was like, how are we going to do this? Where are we going to start? Fast forward, we had partnered with a really good trusted vendor of ours. We ran some analytics, and we understood just within the unstructured data space, we had over 60% of our data hadn't been touched in 2 years or more. We moved forward with that program, but the challenge was trying to get users to do something with your data. It was an opt-in, not an opt-out. So we were going around constantly asking for permission and trying to get users to move their data to this archive. It didn't work. We were then introduced to Komprise and their transparent move technology. The transparent move technology, for a real quick kind of, add on that, is it lets you seamlessly move your data around within your storage environment, whether you're going from NAS to NAS, NAS to object to NAS. You can bring data back through other parts of the application. So it allows you to transparently move it, so it's seamless to the end users. That's why we partnered with Komprise. We took Komprise, we reanalyzed our environment at a much faster pace than we had before, and we actually discovered more detailed information about our environment that we didn't have prior to Komprise. It was over 65% of our data hadn't been touched in 2 years globally. We took that information, built a business case using the analytics that's native out of the box to Komprise, and it went up to the CIO plus the CEO of my organization. Once they saw how much we were spending on storage on a monthly basis to keep that data and do nothing with it, they immediately said, go. You have our permission at the highest level. You don't have to ask for anybody's permission moving forward. We need to achieve this savings and we need to do it as fast as we possibly can. So that gave us the green light to go around and implement Komprise, again, at a global scale. Now, something else I should cover too is in my previous organization, um, nothing could be done unless you could prove an ROI of 1 year or less. And it wasn't just put it on paper saying, I think I can do this. You had to prove it month over month, week over week, prove that you're making progress towards achieving your ROI. And you had to do that on a weekly call with the executives. So, again, kind of fast forward through this a little bit here. In less than a year, it was actually right around the 6 month mark, we met our ROI. So we paid for all the licensing, all the object storage, everything was done in 6 months. So everything after that was a complete save to our organization. And it continued for years. And it's actually still going on today. It's kind of a set it and forget it. Once we put in the parameters, it was just let it run. So every couple of days, the shares will kick off. They'll tear their data out. They save more money. So as the data continues to age, it's automatic, seamless, and transparent to the end users.
So let me ask you, and I also want to put in a plug here. There is a polling question. I want to get people's feedback. We have a lot of our customers on today's call. So the question is, how important is building an ongoing business case for Komprise and unstructured data management in your organization? Very important. That's why you're here. Somewhat important because, but we continue to do without. We can continue to do without it. Not important, or I'm just here to learn. Just curious to understand how critical this is for you all today. But let's fast forward, or just before we jump into showing some of the strategies, Ben. What was kind of some of these bullets in terms of the internal politics and how organization? Because it sounds great, but we know everyone's up against challenges and different organizational structures. What are some strategies you would recommend if you are just kind of embarking on this journey?
Yeah, great segue into this here, Darren. So it's understand your cost of storage. Know how much you're paying month over month, year over year for your storage. And then Komprise has the ability to plug in those values so you can build these reports and build your business case in a matter of minutes. Once you start seeing how much you're spending on storage and how much of your data is cold, it becomes one of those moments of, whoa, it's costing me how much to do nothing with this data and how much can I save? It really is an eye-opening moment. Out of the box, Komprise comes with the values set to Gartner values, but you have full customization over those. And actually going back to your poll for a second, Darren, kind of an advertisement, if anybody wants help building their business case, building a justification, help showing ROI, absolutely contact Komprise, contact your account team, contact your CSM, contact me. Any of us are more than willing to help you build your business case to achieve your goals and objectives.
Right. One more question, and then in terms of getting the results out, like, did you have a SWAT team? Was there kind of a group that was tasked to kind of share the results on a regular basis? Like, do you create a kind of a virtual, ICC kind of comedy center? What was that model like?
I'm glad you brought that up, Darren, because what you're describing is because building out a team to achieve my goals, I didn't have to build out a team. It was me. I was able to use Komprise, use the built-in calculators, produce the reports, and then present those reports. It didn't require a lot of time. In fact, all I would have to do is just export the reports to CSV, put in our logos, put in a couple other values. That was it. I was done. It didn't take a lot of effort to build these reports on an ongoing basis. It was already baked into the product.
I have one question that came in about getting departments on board. How did you have overcome any fears around disruption and, hey, that whole hands off my data?
Always. That's a very common question I hear from our customers when I'm on calls is, I want to do this, but I can't get so-and-so. I can't get this department. No, the people aren't giving me the approval. what I would say, go above them, go around them, use the money, use the financial savings to justify it to your leadership and get approval from above. Get the clearance from above. And I'll tell you exactly what happened in my situation is once the CEO saw how much we were saving, I did actually have some teams starting to push back. The exact words were, tell them to come to me. And I'll tell you what, that there was no conversation. When I would meet resistance, when I would meet challenges, I simply said, our CEO said, if you got a problem, you don't want to do this, make an appointment with him. Go talk to him. And one team did. And guess what? We were able to move through and actually continue our project with their data. There was no challenges because we got the clearance from above. If you're having problems or resistance with teams within your organization, again, another plug for our account teams, our CSMs, myself included, bring us in, help us. We're more than willing to explain transparent move technology, show how it works, do an advanced demo. We're there as a resource for you to help you achieve your goals and objectives.
All right. Well, 100% of the people on the call say it's very important. That's why they're attending this webinar. So let's keep going. We talk a lot about cold data potential savings, and we talk a bit about that today. And we'll show that. Steve's going to show in the demo, how to get to that. But we're also going to talk about two other areas that are kind of newer with our pre-built reporting. It's not like these things are new features, but that you couldn't do before. But now we've really brought it to the surface with our reports and our report templates. So orphan data potential savings and duplicate potential savings. So what we've started to do with some customers is actually, help you showcase this and put together your own presentation internally based on some of these reports. So here's a screenshot where we have kind of our classic data donut showing cold data savings and what they could be if you tiered off, this level of 1 year or 2 year old data, orphan data costs, and potential duplicate costs. Before we bring in Steve to kind of show you all this in the product, anything you would add here in terms of these three areas and anything that you're starting to see that's new or different?
Yeah, I mean, so I was really glad to see that we included some of these extra reports. So before they were always available in Deep Analytics, now they're also available in more of a management style, more consumable, where you can send them up to leadership, to your peers, and say, from a single PDF, this is what we can be doing, this is what we can be saving. One of the biggest eye-opening ones for me is the orphan data costs. When you go out there, and you most commonly find this within SMB, where you've got unresolved SIDs because users have left the organization, so their Active Directory account has been deleted. So those are unresolved SIDs. When you start looking at the amount of orphan data in your environment, it can be staggering. It really can be, and it's shocking. I mean, when we first took a look at our cold data savings, then we went back to the orphan data costs. Again, it was almost as staggering as the initial review of our cold data.
Interesting. All right, Steve. Well, you've been waiting patiently to kind of show us some of this. So let's bring you in here and dive into what some of this looks like. I know many of you are very well, experienced with Komprise. So some review, but some are kind of newer on their journey. We have a real mix of customers on today's call. So let's dive in.
Oh, very definitely. And cold data is such an easy place to start with customers as well. That's because there's no cutover window. There's no having to schedule things too much or anything like that. The whole transparency thing that Komprise does for tiered data just makes it so easy to go in and get identified and get started with it, and no impact to the end users whatsoever. They still see their files. They still do their processing and everything. But the way we kind of get started in all this journey is, everybody knows the data donut for Komprise. Really a great place to begin is just over here in the data stores. Remember, the data stores, I like to view this as your dashboard for your silos of storage. So here I can come in and see the different systems I've got, and I can drill in and see the amounts of storage and shares and file systems that I have under the platforms. And we also, remember, we can customize our view here. So we can come in and choose from the data on the left and put the data on the right. And so what I've selected here initially is just showing us, how much data there is in this particular file system, how full that file system might be, and the percent of cold data for that file system. So we can start to see where maybe to begin doing some of this analysis. And then maybe I want to go ahead and add not just the percent, but put in the actual amount of cold data that we have in the environment. So we'll come and drag that into our view as well. So here I can get a view of our environment. I can see this one's 274 terabytes in size. It's about 73% full. We have about 146 terabytes of cold data. So what is cold data? How do we define that cold data? And that's easily done as well. I can come over here to settings, and then I can come in and adjust a global setting for what we define cold data to be. So in our case here, in our little display, we've made it 1 year or older. Now remember, with this one in the settings area, you can choose your values for these 7 different buckets, from as little as a week to as much as greater than 15 years. So maybe your cold data threshold starts at 5 years or so. So you can edit these ranges, choose your setting for cold data, and then that information will be reflected in this data stores page. So we can start to see the systems that meet this threshold. And I can even go one step farther. I could take this cold column and say, let's look at systems that are, say, greater than 55% cold data in the environment. So let's do that. And no, I didn't have any. So let's come back and edit that filter again and change it down to 50%. My little simulated environment didn't have a lot of really large ones. So here I've isolated it down to just the systems that have greater than 50% cold data in my environment. And I can come and get a report now and print that report out, so I can have that to kind of carry and talk to management about, how many shares have this and have cold data. The other part that I can do in here as well, that's pretty cool, is that I can drill into these systems. Like this one you see here is over 90% full, or just at 90%, and he's 54% cold data. So if we move some of this data off, we could free some of the space here and give them some more space back, and hopefully help the performance of their system and everything too. So the big question is, who do I talk to about that? So I can drill into these directory levels and find out who the owners are for these directories and go and talk to them as well. So here we can be proactive about talking to these environments, expressing to them the benefits of what they're going to see in these environments and things. And then we can also, very effectively drill into the shares that we want to take a work with. So next we can come over to the plan page. And so this part is pretty simple as well. So I can come over here to the plan editor and I can choose edit, and I can start to select the shares that I want to put into our environment. So I have a pre-done one here, but we can come in and we can add in, some more shares just to kind of show you what that's like and grow this environment just a little bit. And so the shares in this grouping all have a common policy. We're going to set a policy of what age it might be, where we want to send the data for tiering. It could be on-prem, could be in the cloud. And we can also start to make some adjustments to this. Now, really important item here to remember is you see this filter over here with all shares? What we want to choose is all shares in plan. So we're not just looking at the data across the whole environment, but now we're looking at the data sets that we've identified in our remote offices group, in our capacity group, and our performance group down here at the bottom as well. So I've got different groupings of shares, different criteria for them. But here now we've identified all the data from those different groupings that's good potential candidates to tier off, to send over to another environment based upon our thresholds that we've set and everything. So next is doing that part that Ben was talking about, looking at that cost model. So we can come into the edit cost model here. We can put in the numbers for the systems themselves for what our data ownership costs are. Now, I use the word data ownership, not our data acquisition. So it's not what you bought it for. I could buy a petabyte of storage for $1 million, but there's a whole bunch of hidden taxes. There's, taking space away for RAID, taking space away for the file system, taking space away for snapshots and things. So that really, once you kind of take that away, consider the cost of your system, or maybe the system's been paid for, consider the cost of the next system. And look at also some of the software that you might bundle in with it as well. You have some security software, some protection software and things. These all kind of tie into the data ownership costs of what it costs you as a company to keep that data on-prem in that particular system. Add those numbers up, divide it by the actual capacity on that system, not the potential capacity, but the actual capacity. Like I said, I could buy a petabyte of storage, but by the time I take all that hidden tax away, I end up with 600, 700 terabytes of usable space. And even then, I may only load it half full, so that's 300 terabytes. So consider all those costs, divide it by that capacity amount, maybe some service things as well, helps you come up with this storage hardware ownership number. And maybe I'm doing replication, I can send it over to another one, and then I have that system, but maybe I got a little lower cost system over there. So maybe that one's $500 a terabyte a year, and then some software to kind of do that replication between the two. So we can see the ownership costs in here, but we can also come over here to the target side of things. And let's say S3IR, it's 0.004 cents a gigabyte per month. So that really works out to about $50 a terabyte per year. a bit for Komprise to do some tiering, and then we factor in about 10% for maybe some egress charges for that. So you see, by factoring in these numbers, we see about a 90% savings potentially in what it costs to keep data here on-prem versus cost of keeping data in the cloud, or maybe it's another on-prem target that we can do, and you'll notice the egress charges go away from there as well. So if we come in here and do this as well, we see what our savings would be for our cost for the two different storage platforms. So now we'll take that number, those savings, and we'll apply it to the data that we've identified. And we come down to this little graph down here, and I like to come to the 1 year mark. So I can see that we got about 50% growth on these systems. There's cost on-prem today is about $2.7 million based upon the numbers we plugged in. And these are your numbers. They're not industry numbers. We started with some of those, but put in your numbers. And then you see, if we do tiering and we do move this data off, well, then we get the cost of on-prem and the cost of where we moved it to. And so you see, by looking at the difference between these two, 2.7 versus 1.3, gives us a delta of savings in here that we can go and then reapply into other things. So this is where you can come in and do that kind of reporting. You can now come up here and choose this report, and you can get a summary report that you can give to your executive management on the kind of savings, what you've identified, what the systems look like. And let me see if I can show you that report. Come on. And so here we've identified the amount. We're showing you how much capacity. We're showing you the numbers of files, the capacity amounts, some of the costs associated with it, the aging of the files, and then the savings up above that can be put in there. So that's a bit of what Ben was talking about earlier in terms of a PDF file. There's also a CSV version that you can get downloaded and put into your reports, your own reportings and charts and things as well. So this is, you see, it's very easy to come in, identify the systems in the data stores, come over to the plan editor, develop your plan of what you want to do for identifying that cold data, look at the cost model, do the comparisons, look at that number, say, is this a great way to go? If it is, then we can do the done editing and we can do the activate over here and actually start that process up once we've got all the approvals from everybody. So this
Steve,
is
real quick, a great question just landed. I figured this is probably a good time to cover it.
Yeah.
Can you cover the 3 types of licensing models Komprise has today for the different editions?
Yeah, we have an analysis version of the product that you can come in and do this sort of information, exactly what I'm doing right here. It does have the plan editor. I can pick, shares. I can do some tiering modeling with it. I can look at, what kinds of data we have in the systems and who's using it, and I can do it by size and capacity. I can also check the health of my data in the environment, see if there's, symbolic links, sparse files, crazy long path names, invalid characters. And then I also get the data stores page of being able to view my dashboard across all my silos and across all my different sites. We have Atlanta, we have other sites that we can manage through this one central console as well. Then the next level up is that we have a migration license that includes everything I just described, plus the ability for you to be able to come in and select sources and destinations and do full traditional migrations from one platform to another. So, a platform ages out, we need to move the data over, or we want to move the data to the cloud or from the cloud. NAS or object, we can manage all those migrations and we can manage multiples of them through this administration console and do that processing for you as well. And then the last license we have is an all-encompassing license. It includes the plan, it includes the migration we talked about, it includes deep analytics to be able to see our data and drill in. As Ben mentioned earlier, how cool is it to be able to come down here and say owner, look at unidentified owner for our orphan data, and just choose run down here and see how much orphan data there is across our whole environment. So you see with data stores, we can see across all the systems we have, or we can drill into, say, a particular share. I want to know how many files and how much data it is on this particular share for orphan data. We can see that, and we can see that breakdown of information. Plus, we also have these reporting tools now as well that I mentioned earlier. So we have added in these extra tools that we can come in, much like the orphan data I mentioned earlier. You can come in and set some criteria that you want for orphan data. You can develop custom reports for it as to what you want to look at and where, and how you want to filter that data in terms of being orphan data. Maybe it's by system or department or platform. And then I can generate a PDF, and I did one earlier so I could be a little quicker about it. And so, yeah, we show the number of files we've identified. And if you've done that costing model, we can also show you the costs associated with it and everything too. And, there's a couple of pages giving you some more details and supplementary materials to back all that up. Another report that we have in the system is this ability to do potential duplicates. Let's go back to reports, potential duplicates. And so here's where we will take that metadata information and look for duplicates in files. We're not doing the bit level hash comparisons of them, but quite often many people have multiple copies of files. They've done a little bit different name for them, and they maybe are doing a subset of them. So here's where you can use a lot of this metadata information to drill in and identify some of those potential duplicates. You can generate a PDF for management showing you, again, the numbers of files, the costs associated with it, and the capacities. And then you can also generate another file that will show you just where those potential duplicates are. So here we run this report. We have this file name share. It's it's a video file, and then we've identified what systems the share is located on, so you can go and drill into them. Our little test data set kind of really fills this area out. But so now I can see the file names, I can see the systems they're associated with, when they were created, last modified, etc., and then go in and address the potential duplicates. So not only are we giving you an executive reporting view, but we're also giving you the ability to go in, identify those files, and make those changes for them. So I will. Any questions about those so far? Any follow-ups?
Just a quick follow-up for you, Steve, is just to re-clarify on the plan page, the analysis, the being able to model the data, and understand your cold data savings. That correct me if I'm wrong, but that's included in all of our licenses, from analytics through migration through full product, correct?
That's correct. That's correct. That's a foundation of Komprise. Just with the analysis and the migration, you won't be able to actually activate the tiering capabilities. You'll have that with the full product, but you can still come in with the plan editor and take a look at the shares, set up a move operation, choose what your threshold would be for it, see the impact to your data and the changes, do the cost modeling, do that reporting, and be able to show that as a way of doing more savings and what some alternative configurations are, and then how to bring the storage costs down. Again, have that conversation about data ownership costs with your company. Have that conversation about where that data is going, because we're selecting the shares and we're looking at them by the data stores. Gives us that dashboard view.
So Steve, we've talked about potential duplicates, orphan data, and of course cold data cost savings. One other is showback. And this might be more of an organizational question. So as you're getting set to show that, I wonder, Ben, can you kind of set this up and talk about how you're seeing customers use the showback reporting or even that whole model?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's in two different ways. I mean, the showback that you're seeing here that Steve's going to throw on the screen in a second is what I would call a management report. It's a consolidated, concise graphic report that you get to show to leadership, to your peers, that's very easy to consume. There's another version of this, which is a detailed CSV that you can customize. You can apply formulas to. You can put summaries on. So you get two different ways to go about this. You get the high-level summary, but you can also get the detailed information behind this report. And I actually leverage both of them. I show the customers both ways to get to this information. But this is very easy. Send it out. There's not a lot of description that's required, not a lot of presentation that's required. You can use it as a presentation, but it's self-explanatory on what is occurring or what can occur from a very, very short bit of information. But again, you can also get detailed down to the CSV and import that into a reporting tool. Again, you can apply custom formulas, metrics, however you want to approach it. So you get the high level, but you also have down to the nitty-gritty details.
And we've had customers use this for departmental showbacks, what they have that within it. We've had legal firms use it to show the cost that a particular client might be consuming on their systems with all their various court cases, data, ancillary information, everything. It can be broken down by a professor at university. Just tons of different ways to be able to leverage this to kind of really bring back the storage tie it to the person that's consuming it, so that you can have a better conversation about data ownership and data management.
Now, Steve, these reports rely quite a bit on deep analytics, correct?
That is correct. That is correct. So not all these reports are in every version that I've talked about. The orphan data and the potential duplicates do leverage some of the deep analytics capabilities. So
if I needed all these reports, which edition would be best suited for me?
The full product edition. The beauty of Komprise for me is that we don't really Chinese menu or break down, I get X component, Y component, and Z component for this. We just have it really simple. Let's do an analysis. We have an analysis license. We have a lot of customers. Everybody has a migration challenge. So you have the migration license that you can do. And then there's just the full suite. And we make it super simple. And then this not only is encompassing everything we've talked about, but many companies are moving into AI and how do I get data fed to AI, do processing, collect the results. We have a great way of doing that and bringing that information into this as well. That's all included in this full inclusive product. So we can help identify data sets, send those data sets off for processing, collect the results, put those results back into the deep analytics database, and then I can use the tags down below to see what those results were for that information that I was looking up. Like I might want to look up, a certain celebrity that I've done. I was doing presidents before for a demo, and see where those files are and see who has them and see that information stuff too. So we're constantly adding in new feature functionality, and where we get those ideas from is you guys. The customers themselves come to us and say, this is awesome, but could we really have this? So when we did deep analytics, they said, that's awesome, but could we take action with it? So then you'll notice in the plan, we added in the ability to not only select shares, but to do a deep analytics query. And they said, that's awesome, but now could we tie it to like an application to send the data for processing, come back? And we've done that with adding workflows as well. So I've kind of gotten off the track here, but as you see, again, we're here to help you. We're super excited to help you with understanding how to leverage this tool to really improve your savings for your storage management and everything.
So let's bring it back to that building that business case and kind of give some folks a few actionable potential steps to take. One, we talked about the show back reporting. I think that's probably the most kind of built-in report to be able to kind of quantify and share results. Sharing them out with departments. We actually wrote a white paper on getting departments to care about storage saving, because they often don't, right? So we've tried to build some assets for you all, and we could definitely continue to do that. I wanted to bring it back to this slide, because what we've started to do and what we want to work with you on is we could help you build this together, right? Working with your customer success team, working with your account team, putting building a presentation based on these kinds of savings. And it could be these three areas, right? Cold data savings, orphan data costs, and potential duplicates. So just wanted to make that plug that is something we want to help you with, because we know how important it can be to, these days, to show the impact of what you're doing. So recommendations is definitely, use the analysis dashboards and reports to formulate a strategy. Work with us on building this out. We have some different templates, and we can work with you on customizing that as well. But also give us some feedback on things you'd like to see and do with Komprise to help quantify it. And Ben, let me kind of bring you back in. There's a question in I had when I was talking to you about this is, what do you if you have one suggestion to get departments on board, what is it?
Start with the cost. Understand the cost of the storage. Steve kind of threw some things down there to kind of keep in consideration. Is it's not just how much was the acquisition cost, or what is the total cost of ownership. Typically, most companies go out 5 years. So start with the cost. Put a number behind how much it costs per gigabyte, per terabyte, per petabyte of data. That's what will just drive a decision. That's what will drive leadership to help you pave the way to achieve your goals and objectives.
And did you have, how did you share it out, the results? Was it one Slack channel, or was it through regular email communication? Like, how did you continuously beat the drum to kind of evangelize the impact of what you were doing?
Weekly updates to my leadership team, showing them how much we saved in the last week, in the last 2 weeks, in the last 4 weeks, in the last year. We gave roll-ups on a weekly basis. You can go weekly, you can go monthly, but just provide information back to your team, back to your peers, back to your leadership, showing what you're achieving. And it's amazing the attention you will get as soon as they start seeing monetary savings. Again, weekly, monthly, yearly, however you want to broadcast it. I would just say, just represent the data, represent your environment. Don't just start moving the data and not communicate. Make sure you communicate through the entire process. And again, you'll be surprised how much encouragement you'll receive and how much those hurdles will disappear.
Got it. Great. Well, thanks, guys. Steve, anything in terms of what you're seeing with customers and how you're kind of working with your customers on and partners on building the business case?
Yeah, again, it's all about communication. Communicate, communicate, and then with that, you need facts and data to support you, and the tool can provide it for you. And then sometimes you just need to ease them into it. So you don't have to start with an aggressive 1 year, or older kind of thing. We have many customers that start with data, say 7 years or older, and then they start to see, the symbolic links that we leave behind, and they still have full connectivity. They see that, they've got that savings in their budgets and everything else, and then you can start moving that forward into 5 years and 3 years, and maybe that's the threshold for them for that department, or maybe it's down to 1 year or even 6 months. So you work with your team, work with what's important to them, and then help them start to make that connection between cost and ownership and their data, and let them know, you're not losing access, you're not losing anything as an end user. You still have full access to your data. The beauty of Komprise is that we write the data in native formats on both sides, so you can always see your data even if Komprise was out of the picture. So complete safety, complete security, complete accessibility. It's easy to do.
All right. Well, hopefully this was helpful. Get the ideas flowing. I do want to just plug that on the TechCrunch website, there's a number of webinars that you can watch on demand. We also have a YouTube channel. The link is there on the site. We did do a recent customer survey, and the number one topic that people said they want to learn more about is data migration best practices. So we have run a couple of those, and we'll do that again. Data tiering best practice was a close second. So we want to do everything we can to provide some of these ideas and suggestions, and maybe you all have them and you want to share with us what you're doing. We'd love to have some of our customers on these and sharing some of their journeys and the things they've experienced along the way. And then the final plug is, reach out to us. We'd love to work with you on building that cost savings model for your organization, how to quantify and share the results, because we know it's so important right now in this economy and at this time to show that impact. So. Final word, Ben, I'll give it to you. You work with customers all day long. Any final thoughts?
Again, like you said before, don't hesitate to partnership with your account team, your CSM, or even loop me into the conversation. We're here to make sure you're successful in achieving your goals and objectives.
All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks for sharing. Thank you all for attending, and we look forward to getting your feedback and to our next one. Have a great day.